All right. This is a Leading Edge, a science fiction and fantasy magazine, and you are? Okay. And explain your
Okay, we're a student-run magazine. We're based in Utah. We publish twice a year. This is our first time advertising. It only costs $10 a month to subscribe, so that's $5 an issue. We publish short stories in fantasy and in science fiction, and also artwork. We take a lot of new authors, but all the stories are really good.
Okay.
Everyone should subscribe.
And do you have a website?
We have a website. It's www.leadingedgemagazine.com.
Fantastic. Okay. I'll put that on our video. And your name is?
I am Marshall Gardner with DI Aerospace out of Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And our firm builds centrifuge flight simulators. A project originally done nearly 30 years ago for the U.S. Navy in Pensacola for spatial disorientation and training of fighter pilots. Used also to create virtual reality environments. What we do is put you inside of a pod. The pod can hold 1 or 2 passengers. It can either be stand control or steering wheel control. And the visuals can be anything from drop and fly spacecraft such as the X-15 or as the Virgin Galactic craft, or you can do rocket launch. You can do mission to Mars if you so choose. Space docking and that sort of thing. So any sort of virtual environment you want to create, you can allow pilots and passengers to experience spacecraft flight. It's also an integral part of the up-and-coming screening and training process for civilians who want to do space tourism business. They can, in the pod, and experience here on the ground prior to flight what they'll be seeing on a trip into space.
Okay.
How's that?
Very good. And what's the maximum centrifuge G-force that you can simulate?
2.5.
2.5 Gs. Okay. And this is the Dallas Area Rocket Society table. Here's their rockets. They're all different sizes. And you are?
I'm Scott Cook. What's ours is the engine mount, and the cups and the box are cosmetic only. They don't perform any function structurally to the rocket. Once the components are removed, basically it's just a rocket within a member for a little over a year. And I've constructed this rocket for a contest called the Odd Rocket Contest. And basically I've taken the standard 12-pack box and a couple of plastic Coca-Cola shaped glasses and created a strange looking rocket, but it does function. The one cup removes, and it's actually the nose cone, and a parachute will come out here, while the other end, the box installed over it.
Okay, that's good.
The box, it's fiberglass inside for strength and rigidity, but does not perform any function as far as structural to the rocket.
Does the box hinder any of the aerodynamics of the launch?
The aerodynamics of this particular rocket is quite poor, but it was purpose-built not to be aerodynamic.
Okay.
It was built to be something strange and unusual, so aerodynamics wasn't in the calculations to build it.
All right. Sort of like launching the hamburger rocket.
F or G motors.
F or G motors, okay.
And it should fly anywhere between, say, 300 to 600 feet, maybe even a little higher.
All right. Okay, that's
That was the first time we ever flew pixel art together, and I didn't really know what to expect. You know the girls videos. But when it moved off the pad and started picking up all that stuff, it looked like a tornado was coming down towards the land. Towards the end of the flight, there was so much dust, none of us. The very first real flight we did was the first leg of the Level 1 mission. It kind of takes up probably about 5 or 6 meters per 2 seconds.
Okay, well, I'll go back down there. I mean, they have a record of all the engines. And then,
I had no idea that 50 meters was something. I thought it was never going to stop. To the moon analysis. Once I was settled with the fact the vehicle wasn't going to fall out of the sky, my first impression was to turn around and run. I noticed that Todd, who was 100 yards off to the right of where I was stationed, had the exact same impression as we both decided to turn around and run, stopping short about 10 yards later to look back at the vehicle to make sure we were watching the whole thing live.
It was amazing enough to see Pixel lift off the ground and fly for the first time. That was just awe-inspiring, but to see that vehicle coming my way was almost scary. But at the end of that, it started drifting towards the line where I would have to terminate the flight. So our job at 2006 was on a skyscraper with our remote termination box to keep our vehicle from drifting into harm's way. Needless to say, I didn't want to be the one to do that. It really got the blood pumping, but fortunately John brought it back into the path where I didn't have to do that.
How long do you think it takes to do all that? Like, okay, so they get a couple of sheets of aluminum.
Watching the vehicle lift off.
They
learned almost everything we needed to know to do it, but that has to be considered a failure. But we learned from that, and the next time we tried it, we were successful, and remarkably so. But it's not easy. It's not an easy task, and I spend one of the chapters in the book describing, at least in a summary way, of what it took to be successful, in my opinion, at a task of this complexity and at this level of risk. But I think the United States in space has to be player. It has no choice. If it has a choice of not being. I shouldn't say that. It does have a choice. But if we exercise that particular path, then far more serious things will take place here on Earth and into the cause of freedom on this planet. It is, I think, ultimately a fundamental linchpin to not only the preservation of freedom, but also to its rejuvenation. As I was only halfway joking about the settlement on the moon deciding they would go their own way, that they were tired of taxation without representation. And I think that if Thomas Jefferson were alive today, he'd say, yeah, that will be that little revolution that I mentioned 200 years ago. When we finally have another free society developed in space as a settlement, first on the moon and ultimately probably on Mars, although Mars is going to be a lot tougher because it's hard to see yet what that self-sufficiency is going to be based on. But the moon, it's quite clear what it could be based on, and I wish you all well for helping us get there. Thank you very much for this evening.